To me, Angel may have exceeded expectations even more so than Caitlin.
Sheryl Swoopes is spewing trash once again. Did she just say that Angel Reese exceeded expectations in her rookie season in the WNBA more than Caitlin Clark? Well, you heard that right. This would have been the biggest joke ever, if not that it's also very insulting.
Sauce on the internet, Legend of Winning, says Sheryl Swoopes is willing to tear down everyone in WNBA history, including herself, before admitting she was wrong about Caitlin Clark.
Swoopes has gone a step further in her hate towards Caitlin by saying that her teammates in the Indiana Fever do not want to play with her because Caitlin is outshining them.
You have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
This year.
Now listen,
What you say there's a lot of
play
shit going
more.
on. What kind of things do you say?
I'm not in the locker room.
Okay,
I don't know. I ain't
okay,
even in
but
the
just-
team.
Wait, what? Why make such silly claims that there are players on the Indiana Fever who don't want to be there and yet say you don't know who because you're not on the team or in the locker room? There can only be one reason for that. She wants to cause division in the team, and everyone knows this.
She is trying to break up the Fever. She is actually trying to break up the Indiana Fever.
No, it's not surprising that Swoopes would go to any length to ensure that Caitlin Clark or the Indiana Fever are painted in a bad light. At the beginning of this month, she called out the Indiana Fever. She claimed that they didn't do a very good job of recognizing Kelsey Mitchell. Here's what she said, and I quote, "Personally, here's where I think the Fever didn't do a very good job." And that was with Kelsey Mitchell, who's an unrestricted free agent, Swoopes said. Because Kelsey Mitchell had a hell of a season this season, and I don't think that she got the credit that she deserved. There's no denying that Mitchell had an incredible season with Indiana, showcasing her talent and making a significant impact on the team. She currently ranks second in all-time points for the franchise with an impressive 3,923, just behind the legendary Tamika Catchings. She's also made her mark as a playmaker, holding the fourth spot in all-time assists with 649. Recognizing her talent, then head coach Christy Sides called her a Hall of Fame level player and a staple of the franchise. So, many Fever fans would likely agree that she has already received plenty of praise and recognition for the key role she played in the team's success this year.
I believe that Kelsey Mitchell was promoted more than at any point in her career.
At the same time, some might argue that part of Mitchell's success could be attributed to the opportunity to play alongside a player as skilled as Clark. After all, having a strong teammate can sometimes elevate a player's performance. However, it's safe to say that Swoopes probably wouldn't share that perspective, as she believes Mitchell's achievements stand entirely on their own merit. Before we continue, kindly hit the subscribe button if you're yet to do so. Back to the story. A few days after Swoopes gave her take on Mitchell, it backfired horribly, as many fans called the former WNBA player delusional. Mitchell herself called Indy her home during a press conference and said there was no disconnect at all between the players.
Oh man, I don't think there was a disconnect. I think that we were learning what it was like to play in a playoff game, and I just think that's the reality. There's no way around that.
Clark's teammate Lexie Hull also joined the conversation. She didn't hesitate to call out Sheryl Swoopes for her controversial comments about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Hull made it clear that Swoopes' claims weren't just wrong, they were harmful to Clark's reputation and her legacy in women's basketball. For good measure, she posted a video on Instagram of her and Caitlin bonding this offseason by sampling some drinks from Swig. At this point, fans are aware that Swoopes is always trying to stir things up with the Fever, and they now take anything that comes from her with a grain of salt. Let's throw it back a little. Over the past months, Sheryl Swoopes has made it clear she's no fan of the Indiana Fever, or Caitlin Clark for that matter. Despite Clark's incredible debut season, where she's dominated in assists, three-pointers, and even triple-doubles, Swoopes seems determined to withhold any praise. At just 22 years old, the Iowa native finished her rookie season as one of the greatest in league history. Yet somehow, that's not enough for Swoopes to give her the recognition she deserves. Instead, the WNBA legend has taken it upon herself to pour cold water on the Caitlin Clark hype. On an episode of the Gil's Arena podcast with former NBA star Gilbert Arenas, Swoopes didn't just criticize Clark. She fabricated her own sets of facts to diminish her achievements. According to Swoopes, a record only counts as legitimate if it's broken in the same amount of time as it took the previous record holder to set it.
If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
This nitpicking comes from someone with 4 WNBA championships and 3 MVP titles, a resume that should make her a champion for rising talent, not someone tearing them down. Fans are left wondering why Swoopes seems so determined to downplay one of the brightest young stars in the league. Swoopes didn't stop at making up one bizarre statistic to discredit Clark. She doubled down with yet another baseless claim. This time, Swoopes claimed that Clark wouldn't be able to take 40 shots per game in the WNBA like she supposedly did in college.
So to answer that question, Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
The irony? Clark wasn't even taking 40 shots a game, making Swoopes' argument not just exaggerated but completely detached from reality. It feels like Swoopes is grasping at straws to undermine Clark, leaving fans frustrated at the lengths she'll go to avoid giving the young star her due credit. But wait, there's more. Swoopes took her criticism a step further, claiming that Clark's dominance in NCAA competition was only because she's a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old.
But let's also talk about how much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. Like, you should be killing them.
Yeah.
There's just one problem. Clark isn't 25. She's 22. The Iowa women's basketball team quickly clapped back with the perfect response, sharing some of Clark's actual stats to set the record straight. Now, having an opinion is one thing, but Swoopes took it to another level by constantly making up fake statistics out of thin air. It wasn't just unnecessary, it was a terrible look. Coming to the WNBA, Caitlin Clark was nothing short of sensational, lighting up the league with her performances. Yet, on her podcast, Queens of the Court, Sheryl Swoopes discussed the improvement of the Indiana Fever, without giving Clark any credit for the team's success. Instead, Swoopes praised players like Lexie Hull, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston, all deserving in their own right, but completely ignored the impact of the Fever's star rookie point guard. The glaring omission felt deliberate, leaving Stephen A. Smith no choice but to jump in.
Respectfully, Sheryl Swoopes, you have any idea how that makes you look?
Smith, in his usual take-no-prisoners mode, goes on to call Swoopes insane for leaving Caitlin Clark out. He said, "There's no way you just accidentally forgot to mention Caitlin Clark in that long speech about the Indiana Fever." Swoopes attempted to defend her actions by claiming she has a personal relationship with the players she mentioned. She also shared several posts on X criticizing Stephen Smith. In response, Smith called out Swoopes for completely missing the point of his message. The seasoned sports analyst clarified that he wasn't questioning why she praised the other Fever players. What baffled him was why the four-time WNBA champion chose to leave Caitlin Clark out entirely.
Currently lead the WNBA in average game attendance and per-game TV viewership. But despite the attendance and viewership records, there seems to be some haterade in the league.
Stephen A. Smith proceeded to call Swoopes immature for the way she responded to him. All I'm gonna say is it was pretty damn immature to come back at me like that. Called me an effing coward because I called you out for not doing your job? I mean, the bottom line is this. She engages in a level of immaturity. Let's just call it what it is. While Smith was speaking to Nancy Lieberman, a former professional basketball player who coached in the WNBA and NBA, Nancy said that she called Sheryl Swoopes to talk to her about the situation with Caitlin Clark. Facts matter, Lieberman said. If you did get ahead of this and said, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion. Well, she got upset at me on the phone.
That said, Caitlin was, 25 years old. She was, 24 years old. She was a fifth-year senior. Right. She was taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate. And I got off the treadmill and I called her as a friend. And I said, you can say whatever you want. You can have your own opinion about anybody. But you do have to get the statistics right. I mean, facts matter. And if you just get ahead of this and just say, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion. And, you might like Boston, I might like the Yankees. It's okay to have difference of opinions. Well, she got upset with me on the phone. And I was like, Sheryl, I'm not doing anything to hurt you. I'm just sharing. We're talking. And so our relationship it pretty much is not happening at this point. I tried to talk to her at the Final Four. Right. She didn't want to talk to me. My life's going to be good or great with or without Sheryl Swoopes in my life. I'd rather have her in it.
That's well said by Lieberman. Swoopes, in her usual dirty manner, responded on social media saying, my life is good without you too. So, from Hull, Smith, and Lieberman, we have seen those who didn't mince words in labeling Swoopes' remarks as lies and voicing their frustration over the lack of accountability from someone as influential as Swoopes. Hull, in particular, stressed the importance of lifting up fellow athletes instead of tearing them down with baseless narratives, urging for more support and respect within the basketball community. What do you think? Has Swoopes gotten too far with her haterade? in Smith's words? Let us know in the comments. Also, like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching.